here is rear steer with the momentary setup. So easily just push the button and you get that rear steer with that momentary switch.
I found 11 changes just by looking at the box art, RC drivers. This is the new 2025 Axial Capra 4-wheel steer 1.9 trail buggy. And some of the changes are pretty simple, like a new livery, and we have metal servo horns on the servos now, but there's one major change that you guys need to see, and it's coming up later in this video. I'm gonna get this rig unboxed, we're gonna take a look at all those changes, and of course I gotta hit the rocks with it later. There's the UTB10 out of the box, and the body looks pretty awesome. I absolutely love it when they use the Fox livery on it. I've got a couple cars around here with the Fox livery. The other version is the Mickey Thompson tire version. Body panels are mostly black, which is a little bit different from the UTB18, which had a lot of white and yellow on it. But again, cool look overall, and there's really no other changes to the body styling. You still have the Lexan interior with decals on, just to give it a little bit more scale look. The driver's heads are molded in ABS. You still access the battery through the hood. There's just 2 clips on the front to pop out in order to do that. The cage is black on this one, where the previous version there was a red cage available. And then we've got the working LED light bar on the roof, LED lights in the front. I don't think you could go wrong with either of the new liveries. The rig's cage provides a solid platform in this buggy, lots of bracing throughout, so you're not gonna get any flex anywhere, like especially up in the front shock area, lots of bracing there. Spin it around, there's plenty of clearance with the latest version of this cage. This change was made in comparison to the first Capra that came out, but you got plenty of clearance in the rear now. You've got a fuel cell out back in case you want to throw maybe a battery or something in there to power your LED lights. But the really cool feature here are the boat sides, which is going to allow this buggy to glide over the rocks. So change number 1 was obviously the graphics. Change number 2, 3, and 4 are the wheels and tires. So they have Proline Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X tires on it. Nice soft compound with these, and they're mounted to their Holcomb wheels, Proline Holcomb wheels. It's a beadlock wheel, and as you can see with this version, they give you a 2-tone setup. So you got the orange on the inside with the black star on the outside. And then the last change is actually the inserts. They now give you a dual stage insert setup. That's gonna be great for allowing these tires to conform over the rocks and give you lots of traction. The shocks also got a little change in comparison to the previous version. They're still aluminum, but the previous version had hard anodized bodies. And as you can see, these are just silver. It does, however, have an aluminum cap, where the previous version just had a composite bleeder cap on the top. Still has a 4-link setup, front and rear, with the 6mm thick tie rods. Those are really heavy duty. And then it has metal pivot balls. Licensed Curry portal axles made their way back onto the rig and allow us that 4-wheel steering setup. Really heavy duty axle, nice truss work on top. All metal gears on the inside, locking spool, and then on the outside in the knuckles, you've got your portal gears, which are metal, gives us that gear reduction. And both front and rear have universals out to the knuckles, so you get plenty of steering angle. It still has the wild bore slider drive shafts up to the transmission, and the transmission is that major change I was telling you about. Let me go over to the box because I want to make sure I get all the details on this right. So drivers were asking Axial to update the transmission ratio, and they did that. So the previous version was a 31.4:1 ratio, and the new one is now 45.37:1, 6.31 internal. So this ratio change should really improve the power and climbing ability, but that's not all. It still has the dig function in it. All the components are on the inside. You just have to supply the dig servo. And actually, with the radio system that comes with it, if you want to maintain the 4-wheel steer, you're really going to need an aftermarket radio to operate all the functions. The radio that comes with it is only a 3-channel. If you do want to go and add that dig in, you need a 4-channel radio system. But back to the transmission, has all metal gears on the inside except for the spur gears. Still has a slipper clutch. Everything looks a little bit more compact on the slipper side, and actually the slipper nut doesn't poke through the gear case cover anymore. But really excited about that change that they made. Can't wait to see how it does on the rocks. Into the electronics, most of the equipment has actually been swapped out for new gear, and I'll start off with the steering servo. So it now has the S683. This has 260 ounce-inches of torque, where the previous version only had 201. So you get a little bit more torque out of this. And they also gave us metal servo horns on this, where the previous Buggy had plastic, and then you're gonna find that same setup in the rear. Next up is the motors. So it's still a 35 turn motor. It's the Slick Rock. I think they basically just changed out the label, gave it a little refresh on the look there, and then they changed out the speed controller receiver setup. So before we had a 2-in-1, this one has separate components. So the speed controller is a 40 amp, waterproof, handles 2 to 3S, and brush motors, obviously, because it's got that 540 brush motor. And then they give us the Spectrum 515 receiver. The cool part about that is if you go and add that dig in later on, you would just need a transmitter. You could bind a Spectrum radio system to that receiver. It has enough functionality, so that's definitely a good upgrade there. And finally, I need to show you what comes in the box. So you got to get your instruction manuals, you get 4 AA batteries, here's your dig components in case you want to add that servo in, some basic tools, a sticker, and the DX3 radio system. So this one's got the thumb knob so you can control the steering when you're driving, and here's your AB button to control the rear steer. But check this out, I just noticed this little secret sheet that they gave us. It actually has 2 different functions now for the rear steer. There's a 3-position momentary mode and then a 5-position latching mode. So you could switch between the two. It looks like the latching mode, you could actually set up how much steering you want. So this is going to give you a little bit more maneuverability if you want to go through this setup process. But the 3-position is the default mode. I think Axial has the trail buggy classes covered at this point. Lots of cool stuff coming out from their camp. And I think they made a lot of worthy changes to the new Capra that's going to make a big difference out on the rocks. Let's head outside now and drive it.
We've got an awesome day for crawling, RC drivers. I don't know if you saw the Helium video, but it was freezing cold out. There's a lot of snow. I had to drive at the beach, but today we got some clear weather. It's actually pretty warm out. I've got some rocks to actually crawl on. This is gonna be good. Already got some wheel time in on the Capra to get some close-up shots, and I probably looked like a madman while I was driving it. I had the camera in one hand, transmitter in the other hand, so I could use the rear steer, and then to control the steering, it was in my mouth. I was just trying to get you guys the good shots, you know? Still love how the Capra suspension works on this. So much flex. So you go through here, look at that. The rear's all compressed, the front's compressed, we're all twisted up. It's not unloading. That was a pretty good run through there. Nice. What's better than the suspension are the new tires. We've got some pretty good traction with these. Nice grip through that. Now let's see this incline. We gotta make it. I've been up here a bunch of times. Looks like I got some spin. I do have some mud on the tires. Come on, buddy, let's go. Crab walk it over, find some traction. I think we might need to use motor. No, didn't need to. I am running 3S pack in here, 1300. I'll have links for that in the video description. All right, let's check out our slow speed crawl. That's about as slow as I could get it. Yeah, no steering. That was pretty sweet. And then the drag brake is about to be expected with this 40 amp speed controller. We got a little bit of roll. So unfortunately, I forgot the cheat sheet at home to operate the 5-latch mode, but here is rear steer with the momentary setup. So easily just push the button and you get that rear steer with that momentary switch. And it's obviously cool to have it, but some of the complaints have been you kind of got to get used to operating it being an up and down switch and, you know, just full lock. But it's a start, and obviously you could upgrade later on down the road. Motor out of here. I got power. I know it. Let's go. Yeah. But yeah, this thing is highly tunable. There's tons of stuff out for it. Lots of brass. Could use a little brass in the front still. I wish they did that. I mean, we've got the Proline tires on now. We've got more torque with the steering. I think that just would have sent it over the top. Tons of steering angle. A little crab walk action. So what do you think, guys? Do you think they made the right changes to the Capra? Does it really need anything out of the box? Again, I think it could use a little brass in the front. Would have been nice if they gave us that, but overall, I think they made some worthy changes, really cool stuff. Awesome drive today. I'll have links for everything in the video description below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're there.